Well, thank you, Mary. When I heard we were doing this subject, I got very excited because I had the pleasure of seeing Rick present this at Experience Inbound a little over a month ago. No, it was almost exactly a month ago, and so I knew it was something that deserved a second showing because the stuff that Rick is bringing today is fantastic. A little bit about his background and our background together. I first met Rick at one of HubSpot's inbound conferences in Boston. I think it was 2012, and we were both in the same place, running small shops that had discovered inbound and HubSpot, and were excited about growing and learning more. And what I learned from Rick from the first meeting was that first, he's a hell of a nice guy, but also very smart. He's got a crazy inventor's mind. He sees technology and immediately finds ways to apply it to get more value out of it. I joined a mastermind group after that Rick was a part of. And so I had the pleasure of interacting with him every week for, well, it's been now 14 years that we've been involved in that mastermind group. And Rick and I started talking almost 2 years ago about the possibility of bringing our companies together. It started with, I think, mutual respect and admiration for what we were each doing, and it became this idea that all the work that he was doing and his company was doing on RevOps dovetailed with what we were doing on marketing, content, and strategy and SEO. And so last year we joined forces, and he's now our director of RevOps. And in that role, he's tinkering and solving problems and figuring out how to put technology to work for us and our clients. And so I'm excited to be able to introduce Rick and this segment on fixing the leaks. Take it away, Rick.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for the introduction. Mary, do we have any poll results? I'd be interested to see how many people are in marketing teams and how many are in sales that are on this.
All right, there you go. You should be able to see it now.
I'm not seeing it, but oh, there we go. Okay. 52% marketing, 24% sales, 24% other. Okay, good. So yeah, what I'm going to present now is going to be focused on sales enablement and sales processes. However, it's mostly the marketing teams that are going to be able to implement this inside of HubSpot. And I'm going to take you into some of the HubSpot tools and show you how we do some of this stuff. So I'm going to bring together some use cases here that we are using for ourselves, or we actually have implemented for our clients. And just going to dive in, and please jump in and ask questions. I really don't want this to be a 1 hour soliloquy of me just pontificating. I'd be happy to stop and answer any questions you might have. So the first thing, and I'll just talk quickly about why I like doing this. There's two things that drive me. One is learning. I just love learning. And the second is creating. And in this role, it gives me the opportunity to learn about new technologies and then create something with that technology. And if I think it's valuable or other people think it's valuable, I just love sharing it. And so that's why I'm here and what I'm doing. And so the first thing I want to share with you is a really cool tool that nobody is talking about. It's called Notebook LM. I'd be curious in the chat if anyone could just drop in the chat. Have you ever heard of Notebook LM from Google? Really like to get a sense of, has anyone actually heard of this? Other than the Weidert team, because we all know of this and we're using it extensively now. But anyone heard of this? Yes, no, maybe. I have not. Ian says, okay. Frank loves it. Of course you love it, Frank. All right, so Notebook LM is a free tool from Google. It is a private tool. I'm going to take you into it, but first I want to talk about the use case that we came up for it. It is a private tool, meaning that Google states that they will not use any of the information that you share with Notebook LM for training their artificial intelligence. So it's built on Google's Gemini. It's basically a notebook system where you could bring in your notes, your notes from your drive, any kind of notes, any kind of documents, PDFs, and just put them in there. And then you could use the system's intelligence to query those notes. And we found an amazing use case for it. So most of our clients, as well as Weidert ourselves, we're using tools like Zoom and Fireflies, Otter AI, and Avoma to record our meetings that we have internally, meetings that we have with prospects during sales calls, and meetings that we have with clients, right? And most people are doing that now. And these are great tools. They do a great job of creating a fairly accurate transcription of the conversation and the people on there. And then they do this nice summary of it. And, you know, we're all taking the summary and we pull little pieces from it and put it in the emails to follow up on the meeting and says, okay, you know, we agreed to do this and you agreed to do that. And here's a summary of it. That's great. But then what happens with that is it basically just goes and sits on this virtual shelf and collects dust. But there's actually gold there. I mean, if you think across your entire organization, all the people that are having meetings and getting transcriptions that you have never seen or have no access to and probably never will, there's a lot of them. There's tons. I mean, we have some notebooks that we built out that have at least 60 transcriptions in them just in one notebook. And so what we do is we take those and we put them into Notebook LM. And now that they're in Notebook LM, we can engage the AI there to uncover insights, sales insights. So we can use these for our prospects, we can use these for our clients, and we even use these internally. So for example, and I will take you into Notebook LM in a minute, but I just could show you some of the results we got on these slides because I had to change some of the answers and names to protect the guilty. But now we can ask questions like, what are some of the common problems our prospects have that we can solve for? Which of our clients needs the most help right now? And can create a list of the common questions our prospects have. So when I popped this query into Notebook LM, what are some of the common problems? It came back with this list of problems: difficulty tracking key metrics, and then it digs into the details of it. Ineffective lead qualification processes, and gives more detail. Inconsistent sales processes, lack of visibility into the sales pipeline. These are all things that we solve for, right? And it also, Notebook LM gives you citations. So, you know, whether it's 100 different documents it's looking at, you click the citation button and it'll bring you right to the section of the document and it'll explain why it's doing that. So that's pretty cool, right? It's actually taking all this information across the entire organization, looking at all of the problems our prospects have, prospects I haven't even talked to, prospects that other people haven't talked to. But now as a company, we can access all this information and get this summarized. That's pretty cool. So I said, can you create a list of the most common questions our prospects have? So thinking that this might be a good thing to share with marketing, and maybe marketing wants to write some articles or some FAQs about this, and it comes back, it looks at all the notes and says, what makes a website easy or difficult to use? That's a common thing that's coming up from a question from our prospects. Would automating tasks help streamline our sales process? How can we get more information from our leads into our CRM? And which contacts should we prioritize to follow up? Good list of questions. All right, but this right now it's okay. So it's summarizing. It's acting like a search engine, right? Well, let's ask it some more difficult questions. Let's ask it to think. Let's ask it, say, which of our clients needs the most help right now? And it came back with ABC Services, obviously not a real name, seems to need the most help right now. And it listed exactly what the problems are that they need help with and why it feels that that's the one that needs the most help. Then I said, well, let me really challenge it. Let me ask it this question. can you come up with a multi-step plan for helping our client ABC services? And this is what it really blew me away. It came up with a 8-step plan. So right here, you see the first 6 steps, but it came up with establish a pipeline and prioritization process. It listed all the sub-steps, enhance the follow-up process, integrate systems, and automate processes. The reason this blew me away is because these meeting notes were several months old, and we had already finished engagement with this client, and it actually found almost identical the steps that we actually implemented for this particular client. So it is an amazing tool for that type of thing. Yeah, and not just using it for that. I mean, think about using it for operations. Like if you put all your operations manuals into this system and you give access to your internal teams. I used to run a manufacturing firm, and I mean, if I had this, if this existed when I had my manufacturing firm, I would have put all my assembly manuals, all my process manuals into this, and it would have been a great resource for our team. Let me just show you. I'm going to switch to sharing here. Like get out of the slide mode here for a second, and take you into Notebook LM. Okay. So Notebook LM, it's a pretty simple interface. When you sign up for it with Google, again, it's free. You're going to see this interface here. And it comes with these 3, 4 notebooks down here. I don't know, Westwood Mushrooms. I never even clicked into that. I'm not sure what that is. It looks a little scary to me, though. Mugifier documents, that's pretty cool. But anyway, you create your own notebook here. You click Create New Notebook, and then you put in the information that you want. So, for example, I created this demo notebook for this particular event here. And I brought in 4 transcriptions that are, I gotta say, somewhat fictitious, because I went in and had some AI edit these transcriptions to protect the guilty or the innocent. And then I just wanted to have this available so we could actually ask it questions. So I asked it, like, what are the top challenges our prospects are facing that we can solve for? And this is what it looks like. This is where you get your answers, and it comes back prospect challenges and solutions. It lists each company because there was no common ones. So it broke them out by company, and then it actually gave solutions. I really didn't ask it for solutions, but it actually came back with solutions. It says Viva is having these problems, and here's the solutions. XYZ is having these problems. Here's the solutions. And then you have down here, it says 10 citations. So if I click these citations, and let me see what's number 5, right? It'll take me right over here to why it's getting this information, where it's getting it from. Because with AI, you do need to check it, right? It does have the ability to hallucinate. So you want to have the ability to check citations. So here I asked, like, what challenges are these prospects facing with HubSpot? Okay, and it's a CBS imports data from their point of sales system into HubSpot, which causes data to be overwritten daily. So it found that information. Viva sales team lacks essential lead information with the HubSpot tasks, XYZ. So this is just an amazing tool. And we are using this throughout our entire company now. So if anyone wants to have fun, we do have these test documents in here. If anyone wants to chat a question in here, I'll pop it into Notebook LM and see what it comes back with. Anybody, you can ask it anything. No takers?
Yep, there's a taker. It's Ian. Thank you, Ian. He asked in the chat,
Oh,
I don't know if it's a question for the notebook, but he's asking, how do we require that each of our team members get data in there? So maybe you can
Okay.
speak
Yeah.
to the automation piece of it, Rick.
yeah, good question, Ian. We don't require that our team members enter information into Notebook LM. It's an optional tool for our team members currently. We are using, what are we using? Fireflies? Or we're using Otter. Okay. So, but our team members are voluntarily setting up their own notebooks for prospects and clients and taking all those old notes and importing them into these notebooks. And then you could share them company wide. So you see a notebook LM up here, it has a shareability. So I can select people that are in my group and share it with them, right? And when you go to add sources, you can upload it you can actually share your Google Drive, upload them directly from your drive. You could upload PDFs or text files, or you can just copy text in there. Currently, Notebook LM does not read spreadsheet documents. Okay, so the difference in using Notebook LM versus just using like ChatGPT. Sure. You could probably do a similar thing with ChatGPT, but Notebook LM is actually set up for this. It's also private, so this information is not going to be shared outside of this little notebook here. It's not going to be used by the AI. The AI is just using this in this instance here to answer any of our questions and is pulling the data from this. It's also organized well. Like, you know, this is organized. When we go into bounce from notebook to notebook as an organization, everything is already organized in here for us. And then you could deselect what sources you want. Say, I just want a query information on CBS. I could just check that and then put my query in. That's a good one. Okay, so Brian, you have a question. I'm going to put that one in there. Let's do copy and paste. So Brian put a question in. What are the biggest roadblocks preventing our clients from taking action on their challenges? Let me select all sources first. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't come back and say Rick Kranz. Yeah, Liz, I agree. Spreadsheets would be amazing. I imagine since this is a Google product, I can't see that being far off. So biggest challenge is lack of system integration. Most significant challenge is the absence of a seamless API integration between HubSpot and the client's point of POR system. Data inconsistencies, inefficient lead nurturing, limited attribution insights, sales team adoption and processes. So I don't know that you know, this number 3 is actually preventing them. But 1 and 2 and 4, I don't know about 4, but 5 is definitely sales team adoption processes, right? Yeah. 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 Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. I think the benefit of Notebook LM is the fact that it is free, it's private, and it's actually structured for this specific use case, right? You actually could automate that, how notes get added, you know, using some another tool like make.com or Zapier. You could automate the notes coming off of whether you're using like a Voma or a HubSpot to get your transcriptions coming out and then being put into a specific folder would it be available for Notebook LM. Okay. So that's Notebook LM. If you get nothing else from this meeting here, this demo here, Notebook LM is incredibly valuable. Everybody that I've told about this has actually started using it, has come back to me and said, wow, this is such a big game changer in our business, being able to get insights into all these different things that are going on. All right, let me jump into the next slide. Okay, I'm going to go and jump into another AI use case before we start jumping into some HubSpot specific use cases. Too much email. So I don't get too much email all the time, but some days I'm overwhelmed with emails I have to answer. And for me, my biggest challenge is that I'm not a good writer. And on the one hand, I'm not a good writer. On the other hand, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So it is really not a good combination, because I will sit there, I'll go through my emails, I'll figure out which ones need an answer, and then I'll sit and start writing answers, and I'll get frustrated with my writing. And so I'll go through that process, and then I will eventually bring in Grammarly, or, lately it's been more of a ChatGPT, because it's, or one of the Google tools that's built into my email to rewrite the email, and then I'll finally get it done and get it out. So I had this thought, like, what if I reversed that, right? What if instead of me looking at the email, reading the email, and figure out which ones need an answer, and me drafting it and then bringing in AI, what if I reversed that and brought in AI first and have AI read the emails? So I created this AI assistant. I'm going to show you how to do this. Really easy, really simple. Create an AI sales assistant. So my AI sales assistant, I like to call him Hector. He's pretty cool. He reads my emails. He decides which ones need an answer, and then he looks at them, drafts an answer, and leaves it in my outgoing draft box. And then I come in and look at the draft, and I could edit it or send it out as is. So I'm not getting frustrated anymore, because Hector is a much better writer than I am. So he does a better job. And this is built on a tool called Zapier Central. How many people have heard of or are using Zapier currently? And then how many have actually heard of Zapier Central? Zapier Central is fairly new. Zapier Central is Zapier's AI tool. As far as I can understand about Zapier Central, it looks like they built their own AI system. I don't think it's built on top of ChatGPT or any other system. I think it's their own, but it's integrated. Zapier is integrated with thousands of software tools. So now having the ability to integrate multiple tools together, and then being able to bring in Zapier's AI into that process is pretty incredible, right? Let me just show you this example email that I thought, this really impressed me, and this is like caught my eye when I set this up. I set this up because I just wanted to test it. So it had this complex email chain that was going on before I even turned on Hector here, my AI email assistant. It was an email that came in from an old prospect from over a year ago, and they were trying to re-engage with us, right, about a very complex project. And then the person that was starting to re-engage went on vacation, so someone else jumped in on the thread and wanted to follow up with me. Well, halfway through this, I had turned on the email assistant, and the AI assistant went back when this particular email came in, which was another person telling me that Kevin, who wrote the original email, is going to be out for a while, but he wanted to follow up on this, blah, 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 blah. Well, the AI went through the entire thread of emails and read everything, and it formulated this amazing email. It says, thanks for stepping in while Kevin is out. And it said, like, just like a relay race, you grab the baton. Okay. But what blew me away is it actually figured out that the year had gone by since they last reached out to us, and he wrote, let's not let another year slip by. How about we schedule a call early next week to discuss the next step? So this kind of blew me away. It's like, wow, this is fairly intelligent and capable AI system that actually figured out what was going on in this whole thread and wrote something that made complete sense. Yeah, Greg, Hector is your alter ego. Except Hector has a good command of the English language. Rick Kranz does not. So this is pretty good and pretty easy to set up. If you have a Zapier account, you probably can easily get access to Zapier Central. And this is all I had to do in Zapier Central is I went in and I pulled down their tool called, it's an email draft response. I called it Friendly Draft Responder. And I gave it the simple instructions. Look at the incoming email, determine if it needs to be answered. If it does, draft an answer using a friendly tone and place it in my drafts. Then the additional information I gave it is when writing an email response, never start with the phrase, I hope this email finds you well. Because for me, that's a dead giveaway. If an email starts with something like that, it's either coming from a foreign country or it's coming from AI. You know, because most of us do not write like that. And then I said, get right to the point, but be friendly and even witty where appropriate, right? So I created that probably 2 months ago, I think, and I've updated it since. I just didn't do another screenshot for this, but I've added some additional information into it, like telling it what emails not to answer, because it was starting to answer emails that were being forwarded, that type of thing. So I told it, okay, if it shows forward in the subject line, don't answer the email. You can also train it to answer in your own tone of voice. So if you are a good writer, or if you like the way that you write, you can put your emails in here and give it examples of how to answer or how you like it to write your emails for you. Now, there's other ways to do this. Also, you don't need to use Zapier Central, but this is the easiest and most direct way. You can use tools like make.com and ChatGPT combined together. You can do the same thing. Has anyone played with Zapier Central yet?
Doesn't look like it in the chat, Rick. Liz said she uses Zapier, but hadn't heard of Central, and
Okay.
I was in the same boat till you told us about it. So
I'll check it out. It's pretty cool. Okay, I'm gonna hop into some HubSpot use cases now. So stalled deals. According to some studies, sales reps waste approximately 20% of their time due to not having collected all the necessary data from their prospects. And we know this is true. It may vary from business and industry to industry, but we do have some clients that their sales teams have wasted a lot of time because they're not collecting all the information from their prospects as they bring them through the pipeline. And we solve for this using automated CRM checklists inside of HubSpot. And I'm going to take you through an overview of that, and then I'll take you inside of HubSpot in our demo portal to actually show you how to set this up. So we look at typical pipeline stages. This is just kind of pretty generic, not a specific example of one of our clients, but stage one, let's call it appointment is scheduled. Stage two, qualified to buy. Stage three, presentation scheduled. Stage four, decision maker brought in. And stage five, contract sent. Fairly generic and typical of what you may see in pipeline stages. Now, a lot of times deals get stalled in these stages because sales teams get ghosted by prospects. That happens. But what about the ones that actually didn't ghost? Like, what about the ones that are like, okay, it's in presentations scheduled, but it really shouldn't be because we haven't got all the qualified information yet for them to buy. This happens almost all the time, that things get moved when they shouldn't be. So the way to solve for that is using automated checklists inside of HubSpot. So what we're looking at here right now, and I will take you in a little bit we're looking at a deal in HubSpot. And on the left-hand column of that deal window is a pre-appointment checklist, because we are now in the appointment scheduled stage. And in order for this to go to stage 2, all of this information here has to get filled out. And once it's filled out, it will move over to stage 2. And what happens in stage 2 is that checklist disappears. And now there's a new checklist. So whenever the salesperson is looking at that deal inside of HubSpot, he can see this checklist that's right there in his face. Like what is left to get answered? What other information do I have to get before I can move this to the next stage? And so on and so forth. So each stage has its own checklist, and it's pretty easy to set up inside of HubSpot. Let me show you this inside of HubSpot. Okay, so we're in a demo portal here in HubSpot. If I click on this Baker and Kaufman deal here in the pipeline, you can see here on the left-hand side, we have the pre-appointment checklist. Deal probability is filled out. Intentionally left the deal description off. So if we go back to that pipeline and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, move them over to qualified to buy now, and I go to move them over to qualified to buy, the system's not gonna let me. It pops up and says, okay, you're still missing this piece of information here, deal description. So in order for me to get this to move over, I'm being prompted as a salesperson, oh, I gotta fill that out. I forgot that piece of information, so I filled that out. Same here. Like if I take Bo, this deal over here, try to move it to presentation scheduled, it's going to pop up. You didn't fill out anything yet. I got to fill out the services, the RFQ. Has the RFQ been received? Locations, NDA signed, all of this, right? And so on and so forth. So this really helps the salesperson. You don't have to remember like, well, did I get all that information? Like, oh, I got to go through the emails. I got to look at my notes. I got to go into the notes section of the deal record and see, do I have all the information I need? No, it's right there. We're cataloging the information for them. And there's a checklist in each step. So how do you do this? Pretty simple, actually. It's built into HubSpot. You just go to board options here and edit stages. And when you come down the stages here, you have conditional stage properties, which you can edit. And over here, we can add for each stage what dependent properties we want to see. So at this stage, we're currently looking at, which is deal stage equal qualified to buy, we've added these dependent properties. And then you can decide, well, do I really need deal description? If you don't really feel you need that before it moves over, you can uncheck it as it's not required. Then over here, when you go into the deal itself, bring you back into deal view. Now let's get back to the pipeline. How many people actually like this left navigation? I am not happy with it yet. I got so used to the top level. Maybe a year from now, I'll feel better about it. But right now, it's like, and then you got to click for it to drop. It doesn't just drop down. Like you can't hover and it drop down. It's like, okay, I got to click. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I digress. So here, post-meeting details. So the way you've set this up over here is you click settings here. And you have the ability to add sections here. So about this deal, you have a pre-appointment checklist. And over here, I say, okay, this pre-appointment checklist will only appear when the value of appointment scheduled, when the deal stage is equal to appointment scheduled, in the demo sales pipeline. So you have a lot of flexibility here. You could use this for anything. These dynamic checklists and views inside your system. But this is how we use it to help sales teams manage deals. Is anybody be curious to see in chat, is anybody using this part of HubSpot? These setting up these custom views on the side and using it to manage deals as they go through and lock things down? Liz says, oh yeah. Which part of it are you using it? In tickets, yes, but not in deals. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. They're really helpful on deals because you think about all the information that a salesperson has to keep track of in order to get a deal done. Yeah, it is helpful to have that. Okay, let me go back to. Lost my place. Okay.
Hey, Rick, I thought of a question while you're pulling up your slides again.
Okay.
For those deal properties, do they have to be deal, like actual deal properties, or can you require that it's like a, company information or a contact information?
It could
Or
be
does it
anything.
all have? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it could
Thanks.
be yeah.
Any CRM property, basically.
Mhm. Yeah, and pretty much anything in the system. That's one
Nice.
of the
Sounds like
beauty pieces of HubSpot. It's so easy to do this stuff.
Yeah, sounds like people are using deals a little bit, but not necessarily all the required and bespoke dependencies.
Yeah. Yep. It is a great solution for sales teams though. And sales teams are really going to depend on the marketing team to help them identify things like that and set that up, because it's generally the marketing team that is running HubSpot and has the capabilities and the bandwidth to customize a lot of the workflows and automations inside of HubSpot. So, I mean, it's good, to just know that this is available and this could be utilized.
Just a quick time check for you, Rick. We're about 2/3 of the way through the hour.
Okay.
I love all the engagement that's happening. Certainly don't want to discourage it if we don't get through everything that we wanted to.
Yeah.
We can always set up a follow-up discussion
Yeah,
too.
that's fine. I really wanted to, I'm gonna move on, but this is actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to dig into this more than we did at Experience Inbound, where I went
Yep.
through 10 use cases really fast and everybody's like, what happened? So cumbersome quoting process. This one's really short and sweet. It's basically built off of that same use case I just showed you, having checklists. So for our clients that are using the quoting tool, that we've migrated over to using the quoting tool inside of HubSpot instead of doing it in the ERP, we are using, again, these same types of checklists, which allows a salesperson to collect all the information that they're going to need in order to prepare a quote. Now, we work with a lot of manufacturing firms, and manufacturing quotes can be very complex, especially if it's a custom quote. And it takes a lot of back and forth between the sales team and the internal engineering team to identify what does the customer actually need before they compare, like, what is this quote's going to look like? What is the scope of work? What is this dollar value going to be? And most of that back and forth took place with emails and trying to keep track of, like, well, what information did I get from the prospect versus what didn't? And then, engineering say, well, I don't have enough information yet. So now we're using checklists for this type of thing, and it's very, very helpful. So using that same process, the salespeople are building out these checklists as it goes across. And when it gets to that stage where it's ready for a quote, they actually have everything, and it's a one button push. So with one click, they can generate the NDA as a separate document. They could generate the quote, and it collects signatures. I don't know how many people are actually, and so if you're all HubSpot users, you're familiar, you know that the quoting system is there, but I just want to show that using checklists combined with that is really, really good. How many people are actually using the HubSpot quoting tool? Is anyone using the HubSpot quoting tool? Kristen, yeah. Do you like it, Kristen? Okay, yeah. Depends on who you ask. Okay, abandoned deals is another HubSpot use case. So according to some research, 44% of sales reps give up after just one follow-up, and after 4 follow-ups, 94% of salespeople have given up. Well, we have a client that has a high demand B2B product that is easy to quote. So the combination of having a high demand product and being easy to quote leads to a situation where each salesperson is generally managing and juggling about 120 to 150 open quotes at any given time, which can amount to $1.2 million to $1.5 million in open opportunities. And what happens when you're in that situation is you don't have the time to follow up every week on 150 quotes. So you are going, as a salesperson, you are going to work with the people that are actually answering your emails, taking your phone calls, or calling you and saying, hey, let's move this along. I want to get your purchase order, right? So you are going to wind up potentially ignoring some quotes that maybe with a little bit of a push, they would have closed. So the way we approached this to solve this solution inside of HubSpot is we did a little triage. We looked at their quotes, and we divided them into buckets: high priority, medium priority, and low priority, based on dollar value. For this particular client, we identified any quote that was over $12,000 was high priority, medium priority was 6 to 12, and low priority was below $6,000. Okay, for this particular situation, these made sense. What we did find is that out of 120 open quotes, only 20% were high priority, but that 20% represented 70% of the open amount. So out of $1.2 million, it represented almost 800,000 or a little more. It's almost like the 80-20 rule, right? Not quite, but close enough. So now we have these buckets and we have views. So what we're doing inside of HubSpot is we're creating these views. We have 2 sets of views. One is for the actual deals themselves, and the other is for the contacts that are associated with those deals. Because having a view of the deals that are open are great, but you also want to see the contacts. Like, who are the 20 contacts that I really need to reach out to that are representing $800,000 of my open deals? So we created that using views inside of HubSpot, and that immediately gave the sales team insight into, oh, I have a better way to actually visualize and manage and wrap my brain around what is open and what's not. But from that, we also created some workflow automation that fires off sequences. So we have 2 different types of automations. One is for the high priority, which is checking to see every 3 to 9 days have they been contacted, and are they in a sequence? So if they're not in a sequence already and they haven't been contacted, it puts them into a sequence. And then there's another one that checks it for 10 to 24 days if they've been contacted and if not, and if they're in a sequence already or not, and it puts them into a sequence. Pretty actually kind of basic stuff. Oops. Pretty cool. Let me go back here. Okay. Then we have 2 different sequences. There's a high touch sequence and there's a low touch sequence. So these workflows are throwing them into 2 types of sequences. The low touch sequence is just a series of emails. So if the salesperson says, look, these are low priority, medium priority, and I've been ghosted. I don't have time. They're just going to go into the low touch sequence. The high touch sequence is a series of phone calls and emails. And that is like the high priority bucket is getting put into those high touch sequences. And the salesperson has the ability to override these at any time and put them in manually or not. But this has been a game changer for our client and for the sales team to just help them manage, what should I be following up on today? So these sequences create activities, and they go into their, when they open up HubSpot and they go into the activity section, it shows them which ones they should be following up on. Any questions on that? It's pretty basic sequence workflow 101 HubSpot. But again, we're aiming it at sales follow-up on the pipeline. Anybody doing anything like that?
Take that as a no.
Take that as a no. Yes, but
Oh, Kristen said.
Okay.
Yes, but you gave her some new things to think about, so. Thank you, Kristen.
good. Yes. Thank you, Kristen. Okay. So let's talk about customer retention. According to research, 48% of salespeople never make a single follow-up attempt after the initial contact with a customer. So that seems pretty crazy to me. That's a crazy high percentage, but I can believe it. We have a client, and we solved this for. They are a manufacturer of a component that is in high demand with other manufacturers. And it's a high repeat purchase component that other manufacturers need to finish and produce their products. So they have the ability to grow and resell with their existing customers. The problem they have is they identified 1,500 customers that they want their sales team to reach out to on a regular basis to follow up with their orders and see if it's time to place a new order. And this was just not feasible for the sales team to do it, because the sales team is reacting. They're mostly reactive because this is a lot of repeat purchasing. And they're in reaction mode of taking orders. They're not in the mode of following up with the order that I just shipped out 2 months ago to see how that is going and whether they need to replenish their inventory or not. So what we did is we took another approach of let's break this into buckets again. Based on the purchasing power and the history of these 1,500 clients, we put them into 3 buckets: the top 100 clients based on their purchasing power, the top 101 to 250, and the 251 to 1,500. And then we created these automated follow-ups and using workflows. Now, the one caveat that the client gave us is that they don't want any automated emails going out. They don't want emails going out, period. They want one-to-one personal communication from their sales team via phone. And so we built these workflows to monitor these 3 buckets. So each workflow has a bucket that it monitors. So this first one on the left, it monitors the top 100 customers. It monitors their orders. It knows who the salesperson is. It looks at when the order was placed. Then it has a timer that goes off based on what particular product they purchased. And when that timer goes off, that salesperson is assigned a task to make that phone call to follow up, whether it's 2 months later or 3 months later, on that order with that customer. If the salesperson hasn't made that call, because it's inside of HubSpot, right? So it's monitoring the system. It's looking, is there an email communication? Did the salesperson check this box off? Was there a phone call? Was there a meeting placed or whatever? If nothing happens, it sends an email reminder to the salesperson within 2 days of the task being assigned. If nothing happens within 3 days of that, then it sends another email reminder. And if nothing happens within 3 days of that, it sends an email to the salesperson's supervisor to let them know that this hasn't taken place. And then it resets itself. So once the salesperson makes that call, it completely resets itself. And so this is perpetual. Nothing has to change on this. These three systems or workflows are constantly monitoring the orders coming in from their existing account and helping the salespeople schedule their day as far as, okay, here's the tasks I need to follow up with, which also gives them like really insight into like, what does it really take to follow up on 1,500 customers, right? Because you could say it as a salesperson, I want everyone to follow up on all my customers, but do you actually know what that means? Well, the system is scheduling it. You could actually look at those tasks and you could say, okay, yeah, I could see that maybe it's possible for the top 100, but when you get to the top 250 to 1,500, you know, maybe we need to bring in some outside help for that, right? Because you can actually see the numbers or what's being scheduled. Anyway, pretty simple automations, but maybe just a different way that we're doing it and looking at it, like how to solve for a particular problem that a customer is having. Any questions on these?
Nothing in the chat, but I was just thinking as you were talking, Rick, too, about the additional automation potential of, even though it's a phone call, you know, you might have some sales playbooks for those particular situations integrated, or you might have snippets saved that, you know, they can use in that call. So there's additional ways to layer, you know, additional automations on top of automations to make it even more scalable. Jay has a question in the chat, Rick, that just came in. He's looking for some quick tips on a team who is selling out of an ERP that's integrated into HubSpot.
Okay. I don't know if I have any quick tips. Because they're stuck working between the two. So yeah, working between two systems is difficult. Sales calculations are quite complex. Yeah. I mean, I would be happy to take a look at it. There's probably a way to streamline how you have to work between the two systems. A lot of our, so with some of our clients, when we're integrating with an ERP, we're using, and if they're quoting complex, you know, if it's the process is really complex, what we wind up doing is using HubSpot in the front end. Like HubSpot is there for the sales team to get the lead or the prospect across the finish line, you know, get them into an opportunity stage. And then when the opportunity stage is created, the integration kicks off into the ERP where it gets finished. And so it's not really going back and forth. Is that your situation? Is that happening, or you have something else going on? Pretty much what you're doing now. Yeah.
We're, I think, Mary, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're gonna include Rick's contact info in the follow-up email that goes out. So Jay, if there's more you want to pick Rick's brain about there, or Rick, if you want to think about it offline and follow up with Jay.
Yeah, Jay, I'd be happy to
main
just have a quick discussion with you, and you can learn more about it. And there may be something quick I could share with you. I just don't have enough details. All right, thanks, Jay.
Well, we got about 3 minutes till the top of the hour. I know, you know, can certainly hang on if people want to hang on. Was there one last nugget you want to share, Rick, or do you want to just open it up to questions?
I'll open it up to questions. That was pretty much all of the use cases I wanted to get through today.
Awesome.
Well, hopefully this is helpful, especially to the HubSpot users out there. Maybe open some ideas